Inside the casino in Monte Carlo, a very special week is getting underway with a champagne cocktail party.
Of course, I'm not going to introduce you Mr. Deyong. Everybody know him, unfortunately. Lewis, thank you very much. Andre, you notice how good his English gets. Every year he learns a new word. His vocabulary is up to 120 and counting. Anyway, I'd also like to welcome everybody here to what we hope is going to be the 10th anniversary of Backgammon in Monte Carlo. The 10th anniversary, we hope this will be the best tournament of all.
Backgammon players from all over the world, amateurs and professional gamblers alike, have been drawn to Monte Carlo to try their luck and to see if they can become world backgammon champion. More than 500 players enter the tournament. There are prizes for beginners and intermediates, but only 200 players are entered in the World Championship itself.
The play starts in the spotting d'hiver, as usual, at 10:30. There are 11 places left then. In the tennis tournament we have 53 and we're going to close that at 64.
But for the amateurs, backgammon isn't the only attraction. There's a golf tournament, a tennis tournament, and a chance to show off your latest finery. There's also a chance, surprise, surprise, to have a little flutter. Although a little flutter to you and me might mean something slightly different to someone who could be staying in the suite at the Hotel de Paris for £250 a night. Tournament bookmaker Kent Goulding.
You know, the minimum bet's £100 or 1,000 francs or $100, and most people bet a bit more than that.
How much do the players pay to join in, and how much could they end up winning?
Here they have nearly 200 players for $750 each. It's $150,000 in prize money. Plus, we pay out here a considerable amount. If the wrong person wins, I have to pay out $187,000 US dollars.
But apart from the money involved in private side bets, how much money would you say changes hands here during the week, just on entry fees and betting alone?
Oh, it's hard to say. It must be a minimum of $500,000 US dollars, I would say.
After a few champagne cocktails, most of the players are in the right mood for play to begin. And at 10:30, on the dot, the doors are flung open to the gaming rooms. The draw is only made minutes before the start, so one of these players is going to face the world champion first match. This is what these 500 people have flown to Monte Carlo for. The games begin right away, and the noise of 500 sets of dice being rattled around in their boxes tells you straight away that this is no chess tournament. In the tobacco auction atmosphere of the opening night, optimism is heavy on the air. A few hours from now, half of these players will be telling hard luck stories about being beaten in the first round by someone who didn't even know the basics. But at this moment, the next world champion could be anyone.
Shake, rattle and roll.
Even if you don't know how to play backgammon, the odds are you've seen the board before. Here, you're looking at the board from yellow's point of view. These are your furthest distant men, and you'll be playing anti-clockwise from top right all the way around to home at bottom right. Blue is the enemy, and the object of the game is for you to get all your 15 yellow men past blue's barriers and into the quarter of the board at bottom right called your home board. Blue is trying to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. This is one standard layout of the game. The other is the same, but in mirror image. Okay, back to the first arrangement now, and here's Bill Robertie, 1983 world champion, to explain further.
Well, basically, backgammon is a race game. It's one of a variety of games that sort of came down from the Middle East. It's got some aspects in common with parcheesi, which a lot of people are more familiar with. You've got these two groups of players, blue and yellow. They move around the board, and the object is to try to get all your men in your home board and then off the board before your opponent does. And these triangular points, they're actually spaces. The triangles don't have any real significance. And you use those to mark where the checkers are. So a player playing blue, for instance, might be moving in this direction, and he'd be moving his pieces on the triangular points, using the rolls of the dice to tell him, you know, how to get his men into his inner board. You move your men according to how much you throw on the dice.
Okay, let's start rolling some dice. Here's 3-1, one of the best rolls of all. It's one of the best because we can make a new point with it. Any triangle with 2 or more of our men on it is a safe landing point for us, but is out of bounds for our opponent to land on. Here, we've made our number 5 point next to the number 6 point. Together, they form the beginnings of a barrier against blue's escape. Back to the starting position. And here's 4-2, another very good opening roll, because again, we can make a point in our home board. 1-2, 1-2, 3-4, and our number 4 point is closed off to our opponent. Here's another roll, 4-3. Not so good this time, because we can make no new points with it. There are a number of possible plays here, but all of them involve leaving single men vulnerable to being knocked off the board by blue on his turn. Double ones is about the best opening roll of all. Doubles are taken twice. 1, 2 makes the 5 point, and 3, 4 makes the 7 point, giving us a very useful barrier against blue. Here's Bill Robertie to sum up.
Okay. We've set up a position here which might have come up in an actual game. Blue managed to move all his checkers around the board, got them into his inner board area right here. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 points. Once all his men are in this quadrant of the board, he's ready to start taking his men off with his dice rolls. Now, white hasn't quite made it all the way home yet. White has 9 men in, but he still has these 5 men outside here to bring in. So as the game would proceed from here, blue would roll. Blue, for instance, if rolls a 5-2, he would bear this checker off with his 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and off the board. And with a 2, he'd bear off this checker, 1, 2. Then it'd be white's turn. Now, white can't bear any men off yet because he still has men outside, so he has to bring these men in first. So if white were to roll, say, a 2-1, he'd use his 2-1 to bring more checkers inside. As soon as he gets these remaining men inside, he can start bearing off the way blue is. Now, of course, since blue is ahead in the race to bear off, blue is winning the game at this point. And in fact, he's a very heavy favorite to just win the game easily.
Bill, you became world champion here 2 years ago. Did it make a great deal of difference to your life?
No, virtually not at all. I don't try to do this game professionally the way some of the people here do. I have a regular job and I just work at that, and this is a hobby with me. So no, basically aside from winning some prize money, it hasn't affected my life pretty much at all.
But this man is a professional gambler. Amarillo Slim, ex-world champion poker player. What brings him to Monte Carlo?
We had a big poker game on the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth, and stayed in England then for 5 days, and I went to Wimbledon. While I was this close, I the casino called me, and I think they've got a person here that's going to play me some head-up poker.
That's one man to one man.
Yes, sir.
And you reckon it was worth coming down to Monte Carlo for the opportunity?
It'll be worth it if I beat him, and in all probability I'll beat him. I generally do.
You've been in before, this guy?
No, and he was very disappointed that I didn't want to know who he was. What the hell, I don't care who he is. You understand? I feel this man anticipates losing when he sits down, and I won't disappoint him any either.
What's it like to be a professional gambler? It must take, you must be something of a rare breed.
Oh, I don't know. I like it. A guy wouldn't like this life's crazy. We stay in the finest hotels, eat the best food. I wouldn't trade one day of this life for 20 years in the best penitentiary in the whole world. Man, this is all right.
Why do you think there are so few professional gamblers in the world? Are people afraid of taking risks in their lives?
Yeah, they're too conservative, especially the British. They don't have a heart as big as a pea. It's not that big. I played 4 different guys head up while I was over there this trip. And brother, it was soft as butter for me. You understand? They're too goddamn conservative. They're possessive of their money. And I just took it. If it had been a fight, they'd have stopped it.
Well, you don't expect a professional gambler to talk about losing, do you? This is Mike Svobodny, the defending world champion. How did it feel to win the title?
It kind of made me feel like I was living like in the Rocky movie, like, you know, usually at tournaments, you make money when you're a professional gambler in tournaments, which is a long shot, and gambling on the side. And I make most of my money gambling on the side. And usually at tournaments, I'll like stay up nights playing people and making sure I make money. And if I happen to get lucky in a tournament and win, then that's fine. But at this tournament, after I won a few matches, I got determined and I didn't stay out too late playing backgammon anyway. And I was jumping rope and, you know, swimming every day, just like I was really motivated to win. What happens oftentimes is there's a lot of money to be made during tournaments, and you can't give it all to the tournament and play for money at the same time because you get too tired. Like a lot of times I've stayed up all night during a tournament playing some guy, and then my match came up and I actually fell asleep at the table when I was playing a guy in a match. But if I get knocked out of the tournament, then that's okay. But if I'm still in the tournament, I won't try to burn my candles at both ends.
How do you spend your day? What's your typical day, let's say in Monte Carlo now?
Monte Carlo? Well, I usually get up about noon, 1 o'clock. That's about the right time to get up.
And finally, 104 weather, mostly dry and sunny today with a chance of some cloud cover, though, by this afternoon, giving a high of 27 degrees Celsius. Riviera World News, it's now 5 minutes past 1.
Mike, Monte Carlo attracts gamblers, people like Amarillo Slim. An unusual guy, huh?
Yeah, I've read a lot about Amarillo Slim, and today, this week was the first time I had ever met him, and he's a pretty interesting guy, and since I'm relatively to him new in the gambling world, I'm sure I can learn a lot from him. He's a good guy, I think, for me to emulate, especially in how he handles himself.
Like how?
Well, just a little bit that I've talked to him, I can tell he's a very honorable guy, honest person, very likable, and he meets with the right people, and that's why he's a successful gambler.
What does it take to be a successful gambler, apart from the qualities you just talked about?
Just exactly what I said. There's a lot of very wealthy people that don't really mind throwing away a little bit of money, and they'd like to throw it away to somebody that they like and enjoy their company. And that it's a challenge for them. If they're playing a world champion poker player or a backgammon player, they want to enjoy themselves if they lose. And they don't always lose because there is a big element of luck. After I won the world championship last year, a lot of people would come up to me and say, let's play 10 games. And so if they won, however many points they won, then they would walk away with a big smile on their face. But then the people that lost, a lot of times we ended up playing more than 10 games, which was fine with me. And I never begrudge anybody that just quits right away and they enjoyed themselves, and I know in the long run I'll win.
I'm gonna win today.
And so down onto the terrace of the beach plaza, where there's just enough time for 2 hours backgammon before the championship starts again at 4. Bjorn Borg, a Monaco resident, once said that he practiced tennis 6 hours a day. Some of these players play their game 16 hours a day. But you don't have to come to Monaco to play backgammon, or to gamble at all. It's tourism that now provides most of Monaco's income. Here at the public beach, you can lie around in the sun, people watching, or you can take your boat out for a spin. It's all a refreshing change from the unreliable weather in Northern Europe. In fact, this sunshine can refresh the parts that other sunshine probably never reaches. For the more active, though, there's always sport. And for the backgammon players, a special tennis tournament has been arranged at the Monte Carlo Country Club. The Monte Carlo Country Club, as you might imagine, is a very exclusive place. It's Bjorn Borg's home territory. Boris Becker played a few practice sets here after winning Wimbledon, and Prince Albert of Monaco plays here regularly. But for the people who perhaps played their best tennis some years ago, there's a chance to take part in something a little less energetic. But first of all, we need a driver. Ah yes, there we are. Right, let's get started. The Monte Carlo Golf Club kindly allows a golf tournament to be organised for the backgammon people on this sacred and hallowed turf. As long as they replace their divots. George Bernard Shaw referred to golf as a good walk ruined. But what does it matter as long as you enjoy yourself? Right, now down to the real action. First of all, a little warm-up routine to get all those muscles loose. And a practice swing. All this takes place under the eagle eye of the ever-alert caddy. And now silence, please, whilst preparations begin.
Just like you, Don.
We're all together. You're over there. I see
Good
you right
check.
there. Just get us off this first tee. We'll be fine. I think we all should take money.
A little consultation about the lie of the land and the choice of the club for the second shot. There's every likelihood that this one might carry past the tee marker. With so many trees around, it's possible that he's got the wrong idea about hitting a birdie. The winner of the golf tournament was this grandmother from Toronto, Betty Ischerstedt. Of course, it's not all fun and games in Monaco. Under the ramparts of Prince Rainier's palace, Monaco's fishermen return to harbour. The delicacies that they catch end up on the tables of the inhabitants, as well as on gourmet menus for migrant tourists. Aye, my hearties, and away anchor. Some things don't change. They loaded ships this way in Long John Silver's day. This ship is rather more modern, though. She belongs to Saudi Arabian arms millionaire Adnan Khashoggi. On this three-master, the Duke and Duchess of Kent glide unobtrusively into the harbour, where the lenses of only a few hundred paparazzi wait in ambush. Almost a century ago, a Cockney chancer named Charlie Wells broke the bank at Monte Carlo and was instantly admitted to the best social circles. A few years later, he was jailed as a conman and eventually died in poverty in Paris. The rich learned their lesson. Exclusivity is now the name of their game. Exclusivity and one-upmanship.
I've just got here through Paris from the sunny southern shore. I to Monte Carlo went just to raise my winter's rent. Dame Fortune smiled upon me as she'd never done before, and I've now such lots of money, I'm a gent. Yes, I've now such lots of money, I'm a gent. As I walk along the Bois Boulogne with an independent air, you can hear the girls declare, he must be a millionaire. You can hear them sigh and wish to die. You can see them wink the other eye at the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo. I stay indoors till after lunch, and then my daily walk to the great triumphal arch is one grand triumphal march, observed by each observer with the keenness of a hawk. I'm a mass of money, linen, silk and starch. I'm a mass of money, linen, silk and starch. As I walk along the Bois Boulogne with an independent air, you can hear the girls declare, he must be a millionaire. You can hear them sigh and wish to die. You can see them wink the other eye at the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo.
Back in the gaming rooms, they're all trying to emulate the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo. Play has been underway for nearly an hour, and a new game is just about to start in the match between Rick Steiger and one of the all-time great backgammon players, Paul Magriel. Magriel, on the left here, was one of America's youngest university professors. He revolutionized backgammon in the 70s by statistical analysis. The score's 10-6 to Magriel, and note that the players are using the mirror image board layout. Magriel has the yellow men and is moving top left clockwise around to his home board, the bottom left quarter. Magriel rolls all 4 dice. Each player chooses his dice in turn to make sure of a scrupulously fair start. The game begins with both players rolling 1 die. The higher score takes both numbers as his starting roll. Magriel 2, Steiger 4, a very good opener, and Steiger uses it decisively to close his 4 point. 3-2 to Magriel, who brings 2 single men around the corner. Good roll by Steiger, double 2s. Remember, doubles are played twice, and he comes right out to threaten Magriel's single men. 6-2 by Magriel. Not a good throw, this. He brings the 2 round the corner to make his number 11 point, and uses the 6 to go behind his opponent to safety. Double 1s, closes his 7 point, closes his 5 point, and puts an 8 point barrier in front of Magriel. Double 1s in reply. A good roll for Magriel, but he's still got problems. 1, 2, 3, 4. To jump over that barrier, he's got to get close to it. 6-1 by Steiger. A simple move around the corner to safety. 6-4 from Magriel. He closes a point in his home board, but it's behind his opponent and not very useful at this stage. He needs those barriers in front of his opponent. 3-2 by Steiger. A lot of thinking going on here. Oh, very aggressive play, this. If Magriel rolls a 5, Steiger could lose his advantage. Magriel weighing up the odds even whilst he shakes. 6-3, so no hit. Okay, he does take 1 piece to safety, but look at that lonely man behind Steiger's barrier. Steiger rolls double 2s and immediately knocks Magriel off the board. Now Magriel must get that man back onto the board before moving any other piece. He needs a 2 or a 1, and he gets them both. A lucky roll there. He comes in on the 1 and moves the 2 down from his 6 point to his 4 point. Steiger with 2-3. 2 round the corner, and 3 into his home board as a builder. Magriel needs a good roll now. 3-1 is not good enough. Right, now Magriel plays it to safety, and now Steiger, realising his advantage, offers the doubling cube to Magriel. Now the doubling cube is the most important item in any game of backgammon. It's the only die which is never rolled. It's only offered to your opponent. Magriel is under real pressure now. By turning the cube to 2, Steiger is forcing Magriel to give up the game or to play on for double the stakes. From the start of a game, either player can turn the cube to 2 if he senses an advantage. Steiger has given the double to Magriel, and if Magriel accepts, then he owns the cube, which means that only he can use it next time. If the game later turns Magriel's way, he can double back to 4 points. The game can then go on to 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. There's no theoretical limit to doubling, which is why it can be very dangerous in a money game. In championships, though, you rarely see a cube going higher than 8.
Right.
Let Bill Robertie tell us more.
Okay, this actually provides about 80% of the skill in backgammon, using the doubling cube. The idea, it functions like a raise in poker. If you feel you have a better position, then you double your opponent to 2. Now, what that means is your opponent has a question. He has to either resign the game right now and give you 1 point, or he has to choose to accept the double, which means that from now on the game is worth 2 points. So you're playing for twice as much. You'd only double him if you thought you were favored in the game, But if you are favored, you force your opponent to decide whether he wants to continue playing on at a higher stake or resign the game now. Once he decides to play on, he's said to own the cube, and only he has the right to ever redouble to 4 if the game ever turns his way again. Basically, knowing when to double and when to redouble and when to accept or pass is what most of the skill in the game is all about.
Well, if anybody has the skill to decide, it's certainly Paul Magriel. And he does accept, so it's Steiger's roll. That was a very close thing, I imagine, for Magriel. He could have afforded to drop the double and let the score go to 10-7, still in his favour. The game continues. Steiger rolls a 5-4. Practically his best possible shot. He can knock Magriel off the board and close another home point at the same time. Magriel's in real trouble now. He can only come back on the board with a 2. Double 2 is certainly his best possible roll, but it doesn't solve all his problems. He's trying a few different combinations here. Notice that unlike chess, it's not touch move. Those are going back, for instance. A play only finishes when the player lifts his dice off the table. But there's not much else he can do, so those go back onto the 6 point. Steiger has a bit of thinking to do too. He must be praying for a big roll like double 5s, which would solve all his problems. What he gets is a 4-1, which he plays very conservatively. Magriel too would be happy with double 5s or 6s. And there's a 2-1, which he plays in his home board, very relaxed, not rushing anywhere. Steiger's still looking for big rolls or any double. Not this time, it's 5-1. He moves the 1. No, some hesitation there. He's just window shopping. All right, that's the 5. And that is the 1. Now Steiger's been forced to run first, and Magriel can hit him with almost anything. You can sense Magriel's excitement and adrenaline. He rolls a 2-1, and he must take the risk and hit now. Steiger knows he's in real trouble. And Magriel hits. Steiger's dream shot now would be double 3s to come back on and hit Magriel twice. But any 1, 3 or 5 would at least let him come back onto the board. (3-4). So at least he's back on the board with a 3. And he can take his time about what to do with the 4. The game, which Steiger's been leading so long, has suddenly turned on its head, and he must be beginning to worry about the possibilities of the doubling cube being turned back against him for 4 points. He moves the 4 out of Magriel's home board. But Magriel here can hit with any shot except 6s. That's double 1s, a very good shot for Paul Magriel this. He can both hit and close the number 1 point in his home board. But he's taken his time to weigh up the options. And who can blame him? It's a nice feeling to have the game swing your way after so long behind. And he does indeed close the 1 point. Now Steiger can only come in with 3s and 5s. 6-1. That means he must wait for his next shot before he can come back in. Magriel's also a favourite to knock another blue man off the board on his next roll. This has got to be the right psychological moment to give a double to Steiger. And there goes the doubling cube. And Steiger doesn't like that at all. Without much hesitation, he drops and gives the 2 points to Magriel, who goes into the lead 12-6. Let's leave them now to set up the men for a new game. But it's worth a moment's reflection that whoever does win the World Championship will have played something like 300 games in the tournament alone this week. Around the tables, the hard luck stories and the explanations go on and on relentlessly. But outside, it's still bikini weather. There's still a good hour or two of sun to be worshipped today. And behind the beaches, construction work still goes on. Here, they're rebuilding the magnificent old Metropole Hotel. By royal decree, though, the new buildings in the centre of Monte Carlo must blend in with the Belle Epoque style of the casino and the Hotel de Paris, albeit with a few discreet additions. Property prices could be said to be sky high in Monaco. When the original concessionaires ran the casino in the 1840s, they offered heavy gamblers free land near the casino if only they would build a villa on it. Nowadays, these Hong Kong skyscrapers sit on some of the most expensive land in the world. For a small, one-bedroomed apartment with a balcony and sea views, genteel haggling would probably begin at about £80,000. Mind you, there's not much of Monaco. It's only just over 2/3 of a square mile and would fit comfortably into Hyde Park. 1/4 of its area is now on land reclaimed from the sea, new parks, the public beach, and on this promontory, the Summer Sporting Club. Inside the sporting club, preparations have been going on all day for tonight's Backgammon Gala dinner. The tables are laid, and the champagne is on ice. At 8 o'clock, on a balmy summer's night, the guests begin to arrive. And the only problem in paradise is which attendant gets to drive the new Ferrari. On the menu tonight, Nouvelle Cuisine vegetables in aspic, followed by fillet steak done à la marchand du vin, with wild raspberries and cream for afterwards. And champagne, of course. Lots of champagne. And then down to business. Tonight is auction night at the Backgammon tournament. Mike, Svobodny and Amarillo Slim look like they're doing some last-minute calculations. But all round the room, the auction is now the sole topic of conversation.
All right, it's all yours, and good luck. Thank you very much. It's quite an experience for me to be introduced as
Tonight's auctioneer, Deyong.
Now, as many of you know, I've sort of more or less stopped playing backgammon myself. But there's just one man in London who I do occasionally go over and play with. You can imagine his standard, I'm sure. He was beating me, okay? I lost a 16 game that you just couldn't imagine, and at that moment, I got
Even
a phone
Lewis
call.
takes this opportunity
The
to
more times
tell
I
his hard
auction
luck
him,
stories.
The more he seems to get desperate, I don't know. He has that desperate look this time, you know? As the dollar falls, his tongue seems to stick further and further out, and I know that's
This
very
Calcutta
bad.
auction
Some of you
is
do
similar
know
to a
it.
horse racing
It's the owner
sweepstakes.
of a wonderful
In this
book on
case, each of the
backgammon.
players is sold to the
First
highest
copy was
bidder.
leather-bound,
All the money
bound,
goes into a
so
jackpot,
well
which is then shared out to the people who were lucky enough or astute enough to have bought the winner or the runner-up.
I saw a copy in John's bargain stores for 98 cents. Can you believe that? O tempora, o mores, for those of you who have an education, which is unusual in backgammon circles. Now, Paul Magriel, somebody start me with 2,000. Thank you, Mr. Ken Cooley, thank you very much. I have 2,500, then over there, 2,500. Right. Down here, thank you. It's at 3,000, just stand back. 3,000. From Jurgen, I have 3,000. I know he's going to go for more. 3,000 on my left. 3,000 over there. Geez, these lights are so strong. I know there are a lot of bidders out there, but I can't see you. So you get a great player here. 3,500. Lee Janud. Well, I think I've spent my life in Monte Carlo auctioning Lee Janud. We've never had a last 64 without her. I can't think of one single insult that I haven't heaped on this poor girl already, so maybe just for once I'll skip it. She actually is looking very pretty tonight, and I would like to remind those of you who were here, I think it was 1981, that Jack Davis paid $1,000 and picked up $50,000 in this auction at that time when Lee won the tournament. $6,000 this is, you know. Not German marks.
The 8 seeded players are auctioned individually, and the rest in groups of 4. Players can buy themselves in the auction, or they can buy other players. Of course, one of the shrewdest buyers in the auction is usually Kent Goulding, the bookmaker covering himself against the really big bets.
In other tournaments, he does very little else. Goes to bed with a backgammon board, wakes up with it. He's writing 7 books.
Individual players bring high bids, but the big money is usually reserved for the
Over
fields.
here, that's right. With Sabe, thank you. Wheat meal. It's the highest we've sold a field in some years, as far as I can remember. The record was 11,000. Charles Sabe, wheat meal. Merci, Charles.
Charles Sabe, the man with the Ferrari, has just paid out $8,000 to buy himself in the tournament.
Boy, do I hope you win. Thank you all very much. Terrific auction. It's very good. Good night. Good luck to you all.
Final total in the auction, $88,300. After the auction, you could join the heavy rollers at the casino, or you could sip a drink on the terrace of the Café de Paris. Rub shoulders with the night crowd in one of the local discotheques, or join the younger members of the royal family in Jimmy's. But by the following afternoon, all the players are back at their boards for another session. For the ones who were knocked out, there are consolation tournaments and even a $1,000 per head jackpot tournament. What is it that separates the winners from losers? Paul Magriel.
See, the average player doesn't realize, the average experienced championship player who's, been playing all his life doesn't realize that they make probably at least 100 clear-cut mistakes a match in the checker play. 100. The game is much more difficult than practically anybody can possibly conceive. There's a lot more strategy at a higher level, and people think, well, you get to a certain level, it's all the same, the players play all the same. I think that's completely untrue.
You were telling us before that you teach film stars and politicians. Do you think that politicians apply your strategies to their work?
I hope not, because some of the, it's amazing to me, some of the, like these presidents of corporations I teach, I see them, you know, they lose the game, they get all upset, they start steaming, they show all these emotions. I say, my God, I hope they don't conduct business this way, you know. I taught an airline pilot, I used to stay up all night with him, and he'd get really upset, and he'd play all night, and then he'd have to, you know, fly a plane the next day. And I say, my God, I wouldn't want to be in this plane.
But even Paul Magriel was beaten eventually, as one by one, all the seeded players were knocked out.
You want the dice?
The finalists were 24-year-old Charles Sabet from Switzerland and Shimon Kagan, a 43-year-old former chess champion from Israel. The final was held in one of the private gaming rooms and transmitted by closed-circuit TV to the spectators in the main hall. It's rather nice to sit back in a chair with your drink in your hand and criticise play on the big screen. But in one of the fastest finals for years, Kagan took an early lead, much to the joy of the bookmakers, who had taken a lot of money on Sabet. But they were to be disappointed. In an extremely tight finish, it was eventually Charles Sabet who emerged champion. Charles Sabet, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have a bet on yourself?
Yes.
To win, of course.
To win, and I have the auction. I have myself and Kagan in the auction. I bought them.
A lot of the people here seem to be professional gamblers. Is that true of you as well?
Yeah, but it's difficult to be really professional, but you can make money with backgammon.
And do you make money at backgammon?
I make money, but it's not my profession.
At the prize-giving ceremony in the Hotel de Paris, it's champagne again to congratulate the finalists.
Will be getting the championship prize. Nevertheless, a very great performance by him. Get all the way, come second. He's a former chess champion of Israel, Mr. Kagan.
Shimon Kagan received more than $17,000 for his efforts.
The 10th world champion who's won his title here in Monte Carlo.
Charles Sabet won this trophy and Mike Svobodny's title, plus $53,000 prize money, plus another 50-odd thousand for having both the winner and the runner-up in the auction. $100,000. Not bad for a week's work.
They're all for sure that they'll be very welcome back to Monte Carlo in 1986. So until then...
And you can be sure that you'd be welcome too. So now that you know the game, how easy would it be to become next year's world champion?
You can teach somebody how to play backgammon that has a relative amount of intelligence, how to play in 10 minutes. But they can spend a lifetime learning the nuances and the small things to learn, and the extra little vigorish that you gain to gain an advantage of your opponent. It takes a tremendous amount of time to learn.
But don't turn professional without listening to a final word from Bill Robertie.
There are a lot of people who play backgammon and try to make a living at it as professional gamblers. They may do only that, or they may sort of combine that with blackjack and poker and sort of other games of skill. My experience is that in the long run, most of these players go broke.
As I walk along the Bois Boulogne with an independent air, you can hear the girls declare, he must be a millionaire. You can hear them sigh and wish to die, you can see them wink the other eye at the men who broke the bank at Monte Carlo.